The major neurotransmitters released by autonomic nervous system neurons are acetylcholine and norepinephrine. Acetylcholine is released by all preganglionic neurons and all parasympathetic postganglionic neurons. The fibers that release acetylcholine are referred to as cholinergic fibers. The choline part of cholinergic refers to acetylcholine. Norepinephrine is released by most sympathetic postganglionic fibers. Those fibers releasing norepinephrine are referred to as adrenergic because norepinephrine's other name is noradrenaline. The adren part of adrenergic refers to the adren part of noradrenaline. The effects of these neurotransmitters can be either stimulatory or inhibitory. The effect depends more on the receptor than it does on the neurotransmitter. Cholinergic fibers release acetylcholine, and cholinergic receptors bind to acetylcholine. There are two major types of cholinergic receptors: nicotinic and muscarinic. The nicotinic kind of cholinergic receptors are found on all postganglionic neurons, both sympathetic and parasympathetic. They're also found on the hormone-producing cells of the adrenal medulla as part of a sympathetic pathway. And they're found on the sarcolemma of skeletal muscle cells that are part of somatic pathways. The effects of nicotinic receptors are always stimulatory. They always stimulate the firing of a postganglionic neuron, or the release of adrenaline from the adrenal medulla, or the contraction of a skeletal muscle. Muscarinic cholinergic receptors, on the other hand, are found on all effector cells stimulated by the postganglionic cholinergic fibers. That includes all of the parasympathetic target organs, and a few sympathetic organs, such as eccrine types of sweat glands. The effects of acetylcholine binding to a muscarinic receptor can be either stimulatory or inhibitory, depending on the receptor type. For example, acetylcholine binding to the muscarinic receptors on the heart slows heart rate, but acetylcholine binding to the muscarinic receptors on smooth muscles in blood vessels increases their activity and causes contraction. There are two major classes of receptors that bind to norepinephrine, two major classes of adrenergic types of receptors. They're called the alpha and the beta classes. These major classes are subdivided into specific subclasses that we're not going to worry too much for right now. Norepinephrine can be either stimulatory or inhibitory, depending on the specific subtype of receptor it's binding to. Why do we need all of these classes and subclasses of receptors? With multiple receptor types, one chemical signal can have different effects in different places in the body. For example, sympathetic activity involving the release of norepinephrine needs to increase blood flow to the skin and muscles while also decreasing blood flow to the digestive system. Parasympathetic activity, the release of acetylcholine, needs to decrease systemic blood pressure while increasing blood flow to the digestive system. By using one signal with multiple receptors, we can have multiple responses to that one single signal.